Hi guys, welcome to today's episode of Bible in a Year. And so far, we've seen Moses leading the Israelites into victory from the hands of the Egyptians and Pharaoh himself. They all drowned. Now they go into the mountain where they receive the Ten Commandments, and also where we see them have a first fight with the Amalekites, and all of that unfolds in this coming chapter 16 to 20. The wilderness of sin was a furnace of hunger. The memory of the Egyptian leeks and meat pots haunted the Israelites, turning their gratitude into a bitter grumble. Moses and Aaron stood before the restless multitude as the sun dipped low. "The Lord has heard your murmurings," Moses declared, his voice a steady anchor. So that evening, a rustle of wings filled the sky as quail covered the camp. By morning, a fine flake-like substance lay upon the ground. "What is this?" the people whispered. Moses looked at the white grains and smiled. "It is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat." The journey continued to Rephidim, but the earth there was parched. The people's thirst became a weapon, and they turned on Moses, demanding water. Moses cried out to the heavens, "What shall I do with these people?" He took his staff and walked towards the jagged cliff of Horeb. Beside him walked Joshua, a young man of steady gaze and quiet strength. Moses struck the sun-baked stone with his staff. With a sound like a crack of thunder, the rock split and a crystal torrent of water burst forth, cooling the dust and washing away the anger of the people. Peace was short-lived as the fierce warriors of Amalek swept down from the hills to attack the weary travelers. Moses climbed the top of a high hill to overlook the valley where Joshua led the defense. Moses raised his hands towards the heavens. As long as his hands were held high, Israel prevailed. But the day was long and his limbs grew heavy. Aaron stepped to his brother's right side, gripping the trembling hand of Moses and lifting it upward. "Hold fast," Aaron whispered. On the left side, Hur reached out to support the other hand. Together, the two men became the pillars upon which the leader rested. With the final light of day, the thread of the Amalek was broken, and the banner of the Lord flew over a safe and weary camp. Words of the wonders in the desert reached the ears of Jethro, the priest of Midian and Moses' father-in-law. He traveled to the camp, bringing with him Zipporah, Moses' wife, and his sons. Moses and Jethro sat at the entrance of the tent, the smell of roasting meat in the air. Moses recounted every miracle, the plagues, the sea, the manna. Jethro bowed his head in reverence. "Now I know," Jethro said softly, "that the Lord is greater than all gods." The next morning, Jethro watched as Moses sat from sunrise to sunset, listening to the endless disputes of the people. It was a burden too heavy for one man to carry. Later, Jethro spoke to Moses with the wisdom of age. "The thing you do is not good. You will wear away." He advised Moses to choose able men that will judge smaller matters, leaving only the weightier cases for the prophet. Moses listened, and the seeds of a nation's order were sown. 3 months after leaving Egypt, the Israelites arrived at the base of Mount Sinai. Moses went up to God, and the Lord offered a covenant. "If you will obey my voice, you shall be my treasured possession." Moses returned and summoned Aaron and the elders to relay the promise. The people answered with one voice, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." They washed their clothes and prepared themselves, for in 3 days the Creator would descend upon the mountain in the sight of all. On the third day, the morning broke with thunder and flashes of lightning. A thick cloud, dark as midnight and swelling with smoke, settled upon the peak of Sinai. The very earth trembled. The sound of a trumpet grew louder and louder, a piercing note that seemed to vibrate in the bones of every man and woman. Moses stood alone at the edge of the barrier, his face illuminated by the fire that wrapped the mountain like a garment. The Lord called to him from the heart of the storm, and Moses stepped into the darkness to meet the light. From the midst of the thunder, 10 words were spoken. They became the commandment. The voice of God rolled over the camp like a physical weight, commanding worship, rest, and honor. But the people were overcome with terror. They retreated from the foot of the hill, trembling. "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen," the people pleaded through the fear. "But do not let God speak to us, lest we die." They saw the majesty, but they could not yet bear the intimacy of the divine. Moses turned back to the people, his heart heavy with their fear, but filled with the weight of the law. "Do not fear," he told them, "for God has come to test you, that the fear of him may be before you." He then turned and walked backwards to the thick darkness where God was. In his mind, the commandments were already etched, a blueprint for a new way of living, where justice and mercy would meet. He ascended into the cloud, a mediator between the dusts of the earth and the fire of the heavens, carrying the hope of a covenant that would last forever.